Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sales Report, where we will learn from our alumni from one of the world's top sales programs on how they have found success in their career and in their life. Michigan State University graduates will discuss their professional journeys and the skills, knowledge, and habits required to be top performers. The Michigan State Sales Leadership minor leverages the strength of two nationally ranked colleges, the Broad College of Business and the College of Communications, Arts, and Sciences. I am your host, Sydney DeHorn, and today we have Eron Bulter. Eron, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So, the goal of this podcast is to really highlight you and highlight the success of our Michigan State program that we have. And so, a little bit of background on Eron today. Eron graduated from Michigan State in 2002 with his MBA, and currently he works as the Senior Director in Vertical Markets and Sales Operations. As of just 3 months ago, you received this title in the Fisher Healthcare Division at Thermo Fisher Scientific. So, congratulations on the recent role, Eron.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're excited to have you here, and I know from a little bit of research that I've done about you, you have been at Thermo Fisher Scientific for almost 6 years now. Is that right?
That is correct.
Awesome. Well, so to start, can you share a little bit about your career path and what's led you to your current role that you're in now?
When I graduated undergrad from Bradley University, I have undergrad in chemistry. I originally wanted to be a doctor, but one of
Okay.
my professors, who was my organic professor, we were talking one day and he said, "You know what?" He said, "You should really consider a career in business, specifically in sales and marketing." And so I started looking into it and I immediately made a pivot because my dentist and other family friends had been in my ear about where medicine was headed and that, it's not what it used to be. And so other career options might be the path. And believe it or not, my dentist and between him and my best friend's dad, they were always in my ear about, graduate school, advanced degrees, and particularly an MBA. And so upon graduation, I went to work for a chemical company in marketing. And then I went to work for a pharmaceutical company for 4 years. And that is where I determined that I wanted to definitely stay in business and wanted to pursue my MBA. So I quit my job and went to school full time. My parents thought I was crazy, but it was the best bet that I ever did that paid off very well. So my journey after B school is quite interesting because I took an untraditional route to stay in the commercial space. I studied finance in B school, and everybody's like, "What are you going to do with a finance degree in the commercial space?" And I help them understand that finance is the only thing that's common in business. Everybody wants to talk about all the functional areas and every other discipline, but money is the most important thing in business. It's the only thing that matters to your shareholders. And so understanding how financial strategy is integrated within an organization and how you have to operate within the guardrails of money, so to speak, and making money is what having a finance concentration with an MBA is what it taught me. And so after that, I went to work for GE on a rotational program called the um, Commercial Leadership Program. And I was the first class, one of 135 people globally selected for the program. And that really launched me into a whole nother trajectory in my career. From there, I went to work for Quest Diagnostics as a sales leader. And then after that, I went to Roche Diagnostics for 10 years and lots of different accomplishments along that way between Quest and Roche. I went to Abbott Labs in the molecular division and then came to Thermo most recently in the last 6 years.
And you've been at Thermo now for 6 years. What has kept you there for so long?
It's the same thing that kept me at Roche for 10 years.
Okay.
The leadership at Thermo Fisher Scientific values the employees and the team here more than what I've seen in other organizations. A lot of times when you work for a company, you don't understand the the way that an organization operates culturally and what that means for you until you've been there for a while and you kind of get settled in. Everybody, you started a company, you have rose-colored glasses, but once you get settled in and you begin to really understand how the organization operates, and what it means for you, then you can really understand why you enjoy working there. And that's what I've experienced at Thermo Fisher. Um, our CEO, Mark Casper, and then our CLT, our company leadership team, they set the pace and the tone for the rest of this organization, which is we care about our customers, we put our customers first, we put our employees first, and we definitely live our vision and our mission, which is to make the world healthier, safer, and cleaner. And the way that that is embodied in the day-to-day operations of the business, while we're all still accountable for generating results, but the way we get there is what makes it is the most important thing for me around why I've stayed here. I've had an opportunity to work for some tremendous leaders through some very turbulent times in the world, most recently COVID, and that actually was one of the second reasons why I still work here. So during COVID, at the very beginning, much like a lot of other companies, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if we were going to have jobs. We didn't know what what was going to happen in the world with our health or anything. That Thermo Fisher Scientific was a major contributor in the global response to COVID, from selling testing kits to providing other manufacturers with testing to supporting pharmaceutical companies with research and vaccine research and manufacturing. I mean, we
Mhm.
literally are vertically integrated well to respond to a pandemic. And so I happen to be in the business that one of the major businesses that was a part of that, and saw directly how the company operates, how we manage through a number of different challenges every day. And it was just completely changed my view of the company. I love working here and hope to stay here through the end of my career.
Amazing. That's so good to hear. I love hearing people's stories, especially when they've been with a company for an extended period of time. And another thing that I've noticed about your experience is that you've been in the healthcare and pharmaceutical space pretty much your whole life. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
What has, coming from me, I actually I wanted to be a doctor when I was a little kid, but I'm scared of needles and blood now, so that didn't really work out well for me. But I'm interested. What has kept you in healthcare, and of course, learning about how you've had a direct impact on COVID most recently, and things like that. What is it that you like so much about healthcare? And again, what has kept you in that area of the business?
So I've stayed in healthcare primarily because like I said earlier, I wanted to be a doctor when I got older, like when I was a kid. And working in the space on the business side still gives me that same gratification of providing care to other human beings, but I'm on a different end of it. And, working in diagnostics for the last 20 years has allowed me to learn and have an impact in a different way, which has been centered around either identifying a disease, meaning diagnosing, and then managing a disease potentially. And so when you think about every time you go to the doctor, 70 to 80% of the medical visit involves some type of a diagnostic test. A blood pressure check is technically a diagnostic test. And so the opportunity to continue to have that impact through the diagnostic space has been what's most thrilling for me. And I would say over all of the different organizations I've worked for, um, every company has the same objective, but the products and services that those companies sell all have a different play or a different meaning or a different impact on healthcare. And that value, that impact is important to me, and I love it. But most recently, in the last 10 years, I found out that I have a rare disease. So I have a rare disease called von Willebrand's disease, and my youngest son has it as well. And so what von Willebrand's is a form of hemophilia. It's a mild form that can be severe, but I have a mild to moderate form of it. It's genetic. And, I've had an opportunity to work with a number of families and kids and other adults here in Nevada as well as nationally, to help them with learning how to manage it, how to work through the system of reimbursement, raise money. I've done all kind of things. And so when you look at, being a patient myself, and then understanding that the products and services that I've sold and marketed for the last 20 plus years all have played a role in my own disease state management, has been pretty profound. So, a lot of meaning for me, come full circle, so to speak, in the last 10 years, but it continues to motivate me today. Um, when it comes to sales and marketing, I'll tell you that the number one reason I've stayed in sales and marketing is because, well, I'm an athlete by growth and by training, so to speak. I was a swimmer growing up, swam all the way through college, and the desire to win, the drive to win, and to be the best, as a very important part of being in sales. And that has been kind of the complement, stayed in sales and marketing, as well as in the healthcare industry.
It's incredible, especially hearing your story about your disease and how you've kind of applied it to your role. Have you used that with talking with clients? Have you shared your personal experiences, walking through those experiences with your disease, has that helped you, sell this products that you're selling today?
Yeah, it has it definitely has had an impact, right, in terms of how I sell, how I interact with customers, um, but in a different way than probably what most people think. Um,
Okay.
you know, the services that I've sold over the years around in diagnostics, it touches those products touch a number of different disease states, and I would say just having a bleeding disorder is just one of thousands that could exist of conditions that people are trying to manage or treat or identify. So I would say that my passion in how I sell and how I engage customers is not necessarily from my own experience as much as it is about helping other people getting the right care that they need. So let me break it down differently for you. When you go to the doctor and you go get a blood test and you wait on that result, it could be something as simple as, do I have an infection? Or it could be something a little bit more serious, um, like, some other advanced disease like a cancer or some other, type of disease that could be a little bit more challenging to manage. And so you just don't know. And what you don't realize before you really dig into diagnostics is that the information that comes with that result, there's a patient at the end of that. The fact that you are helping clinicians get answers to questions and that those answers have to be right, comes back to the passion around selling it. But it also you have to be right. You have to make sure that you know what you're talking about. So you have to be buttoned up. You have to be incredibly detailed, and you have to make sure you understand exactly what your customers are trying to accomplish and how your solution or your product can help them accomplish that.
I've heard that I have a couple of friends that are in healthcare sales, and I'm curious, what was your learning experience like? I've heard from some of my friends that it's a very extensive process because it is healthcare and you are dealing with making sure that you're, saving people's lives, right? What was your learning experience? In your first role, and how are you consistently learning and taking trainings and making sure that you do provide that correct information?
Yeah. So, most companies are going to put you through a core set of training, which I happen to own. I own sales training for the division. And that training is very involved with understanding, the products and services that you're selling. So you learn about the market, you learn about the customer and the application of the solutions, but then you also may need to learn about the disease state. So I would say that's pretty much the most consistent format that most organizations will walk through. when it comes to your own development, you have to always invest in yourself no matter what, as it comes down to your career. So you have to, whether it's an association, trade shows, uh, whether you're reading or keeping up with journals, there's a number of different ways that you have to stay current and stay relevant, much like physicians do. I mean, physicians have to take their boards every 10 years, and there's a reason, because you want to make sure that they know the most current practices in medicine and they know it cold. When you work in this space, you have to do the same thing. We're just not quizzed on it, so to speak, but you are quizzed when you talk to your customers. If you don't tell them fact-based information that's correct, then your credibility goes away and you don't necessarily sell anything. So you always have to invest in yourself. You have to continue to work to strive for knowledge that you may not have today, and you're seeking more information out. I think being naturally inquisitive is a trait that pays off great in this industry. And I think a lot of people take it for granted, because when you're naturally inquisitive in sales, especially in healthcare sales, you are ultimately thinking ahead of where your customer might be going, and you're thinking about how to bring your solution to them and how to position it. Because a lot of people say selling is hard, a lot of people say selling is easy. I would say that selling is only made for a certain type of person. And a person who can sell successfully is not only a person that can have the technical knowledge and aptitude to convey the information that they need to, but it's also being able to ask the right questions and forge the right relationships with those customers as well. And that happens through discipline, that happens through figuring out problems that you may not think are problems, but you're technically trying to work through a solution that may not be just standing right in front of you. But between being competitive and wanting to win and make a lot of money, that discipline is important when it comes down to the core element of selling, which is strategy. And if you don't have the right strategy built, then you probably aren't going to be successful.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense, and I actually had one of the questions that I had written down. It totally relates to what you just said, but I know you said it takes a certain type of person to be naturally inquisitive and do well in the role that you're talking about. But do you think that someone can grow into that role? Do you think it's possible that, even if someone isn't naturally inquisitive or necessarily has that skill, that that's something that can be developed over time?
That skill, I do believe, can be developed, yes. But there are some people who are not built for all types of sales. Like there's different types of sales roles out here that all require different skills, or
Mhm,
competencies and behaviors that you have to be rock solid at.
mhm,
So if you take my industry, for example, the business I'm in, we call on hospitals and large reference labs like Quest and LabCorp. And in order to be successful calling on a hospital, um, you have to be able to know how to navigate a very complex environment with a number of different decision makers. Um, yeah, you can learn that. But then when you couple on very complex products and services with disease states and multiple layers of technical buyers that have to figure out what about their product they like or they don't like, or what they want or don't want, that's where you start getting into complexities that are different than, say, selling other products that are not in healthcare. Or even if you look at within healthcare and you say, okay, what are the differences? I work for so the business I'm in is distribution. Fisher Healthcare is a distributor. We compete against Cardinal, McKesson, Medline. We all
mhm.
call on the same customers, but a little bit different strategy. Our goal is to grow a portfolio. Well, if you compare that to pharmaceuticals, or if you compare that to um, medical devices or medical equipment, a lot of the same muscles are used, but they're a little bit different. So some muscles may be bigger than others. So, for example, in medical devices, highly technical, highly technical. I mean, those guys are are literally advising physicians, in some cases, in the OR with the patient on the table. That's a different level of selling and different level of competency that's required to do that. Whereas
Absolutely.
we're not doing quite that.
That makes sense. I'm curious because I've always found healthcare and the medical field very interesting. But the last question that I have for you is for someone who is not quite sure, but they think they want to go into healthcare or medical sales, what is your number one tip of advice that you have for them if they should pursue it, if they shouldn't pursue it? Um, what's the advice that you have for someone interested in the area?
If you think you want to give sales a try, I say go for it. You fail 100% at everything you don't try. So, you don't know
Mhm.
if you'll be successful at it until you give it a whirl. Now, the question is, your point is, should you go into healthcare sales or some other type of sales? And what I've seen over my career is a lot of people will go a different path of sales to get the core foundation of selling experience. I've seen people go and literally into copier sales or other types of industry, maybe food, maybe beverage, maybe it's some other manufacturing product, but they get the core skills of selling down first. And then what they do is they focus on enhancing their capabilities of selling into a more complex environment so that they can demonstrate that they can handle a complex selling process. And then they, they somewhere in there figure out that they can demonstrate that they can sell a technical product. And then they make that leap into healthcare. Um, but I think that people should pursue what they have a passion for. And if you have
Mhm.
a passion for healthcare, I say go for it. It's not an easy journey. It's not a very easy industry to break into, but I will tell you that it is incredibly rewarding when you do break into it and you find success.
Well, thank you, Erin, for the insights and telling us more about the healthcare field. We haven't heard much about that on the podcast yet, so it was great to hear from you and really appreciate your insights.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here. I feel honored to have an opportunity to be here and to give back to the school and the program. So thank you very much.
Thanks all so much for listening today. Please be sure to follow Erin on LinkedIn and listen to the remainder of our Sales Report podcasts. You can find us on LinkedIn, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.